presenting to you all about Mardi Himal trek. In this presentation, we will be talking about the location of Mardi Himal, what are the base camps or best base camps that are available there, what are the hospitality and services available in those base camps, certain equipments that are required during this trek, what are the risks that need to be thought about before proceeding, and the cost that is required. Talking about Mardi Himal lies in the Annapurna mountain range. It lies in the altitude of 2,554 meters to 5,587 meters. This trek, the trek starts from three different locations, that is either from Kunde, Landruk or Khandruk, but the standard route is either from Kunde or Landruk. The trek is long and tiring and requires a certain amount of physical strength, and it lasts for about 3 to 5 days depending upon how much a person can walk. The most favorable time to visit the Mardi Himal is either in December to February, where there can be a little snow after the winter season, or either during May or March during the spring season. And the ending point is either in Kunde or Siding. We can return from where we started. Now, there are 5 bases that are situated in the Himal camp. They are namely forest camp, rest camp, low camp, high camp, and base camp. The forest camp being the lowest of altitude and base camp being the highest of altitude. The trek among these camps are straight, but if we want for our personal assurance, we can either take a guide, but we have to know that the cost for the guide, including his fooding, lodging, and his services cost should be paid. But if we want, we can take this trek on ourselves. There are certain indicators along the way, like the blue and white flag that is painted on the bark of the trees, which tell us that we are going in the right direction. Now, so there are hotels and services that are available in all of these bases. The hotels, the locals are very helpful, and they ensure that we do not face any sort of difficulties during our stay there. They provide us with certain tips and guidelines that help us during our trek. But one thing we should know about the hotels are the food is expensive, and whereas the rooms are cheaper. During our trek in Mardi Himal, we rented a room for rupees 750 for a whole night, which included over 10 beds, and the food is extremely expensive. The non-veg thali costs about 550 to 650 rupees, and the non-veg sets are not available easily, and even if they are, the cost would be extremely high, like about close to 1000 rupees. Private and local trucks are available, which take us from Pokhara to our starting point, that is either Kunde, Landruk or Khandruk. The contact info for the forest camp is given in the screen, and we can pre-book the hotels if we want. And for the above situated hotels, the locals will be more than happy to help us book them. Now, certain equipments are required during our trek, without which it would not be possible. As we know, Mardi Himal lies in the higher altitude, therefore there may be chances of snowfall and high-blowing winds. Therefore, windproof and waterproof jackets and trousers are required. Taking bags, sticks, and boots with additional grip that are made out of metal to ensure that we do not slip or fall. Layering of clothes should be done. It means that about 3 to 4 layers of clothes should be worn inside our jackets and trousers to protect our body from the extreme cold. Woolen hats or any sort of hats, two pairs of socks, and 1 pair of gloves which are waterproof. And the hotels there only provide us with the rooming service. Therefore, we should take all the requirements like toothpaste and toothbrush ourselves. In the above situated hotels, like in the base camp, low camp, and high camp, the free-flowing water may not be easily available. So, the use of wet wipes is recommended. Medicines like Jivanzal, Sinex, and Move, either cream or spray, should be brought in case of any sort of emergencies. A thermos to carry warm water, and a normal water bottle to carry normal water. Like as we know in the higher altitude, the only stops that are available are the base camps, and these camps only provide us with the food. There are no certain shops between these camps, so we should take energy bars, protein bars, or any sort of packaged foods that provide us nutrients and energy during our trek. Now, there are certain risks that need to be carefully thought about before proceeding, and one of them is altitude sickness. It is the condition where a person is not able to adapt to the present altitude he or she is living in. The causes of the people like us who are living in the hilly regions are normally are able to adapt to the altitude from 2000 to maximum of 2000 meters. So a straight jump to 4000 meter can be harmful. The effects of altitude sickness can be severe, and a person may even lose his or her life. Therefore, it should not be carelessly thought about. To minimize its effects, acclimatization should be done. It is a process where a person spends at least a night in a certain altitude difference to adapt to the altitude and to ensure that he or she will not face in the altitude above. Use of garlics and medicines help to prevent the effects of altitude sickness to a certain limit, but if slight symptoms are shown, then the person should descend to a lower altitude immediately. There are steep hills along the trail, as you can see in the background photo. The trail is very narrow, and in the winter season, the trail is mostly covered with snow. Therefore, additional grips and proper equipments are required. We have even heard about certain news where a person or a group of people have gone missing or lost during a trek. Now, talking about the cost, the price ranges generally from 15,000 to 25,000, excluding the equipment. The services affect the price during the price. Now, for example, if we rent a private jeep, then the cost generally increases from 10,000 to 15,000. Sorry, there is a mistake in the price. Whereas a public, this trip includes the two-way trip. That means they bring us from Pokhara to our starting point and take us from our ending point to Pokhara. And a public jeep costs about 800 rupees maximum, which includes our luggages. And the services generally affect the cost, and the equipment's cost generally ranges from 5,000 to 10,000, depending upon whether a person wants to buy those equipments or rent them from through different travel agencies. Now, here are some of the photos during our travels there. All the photos and videos used in this presentations have been taken by ourselves. So, view from the base camp. Thank you, sir. So, any questions?
Go to the equipment slide. Read out the fourth, whatever you've written it, read out the fourth point.
Woolen hats, 2 pairs of socks, and 1 pair of gloves.
2 pair को socks चाहिँ किन लेखेको थिएँ?
भनेको
हाँ?
दुईटा चाहिन्छ नि त सर, अब एउटा भिज्यो भने त अर्को त
होइन, 2 pair of socks हुन्छ कि 2 pair को socks हुन्छ त्यहाँ?
ए 2 pair of socks. Sorry, sir.
यस्तो सानो सानो कुराले मार्क्स काटिन्छ. Okay. Coming to the question, it was a good presentation. You've given us wonderful experience regarding that. I'll ask you a bit practical question. Now that the COVID pandemic has struck and then it has hit us, last year it's been a complete year, almost a year of lockdown, and now we've again come with the second wave. Under these circumstances, the government is warning the trekkers and especially these trekking routes to be very, very aware, and they warn that you're going to lose a lot of your business. So what do you think could be the remedies of this? Suppose to say the Mardi trek route, now that it's closed, once the pandemic is gone, everything is back to normal. How do you think this trekking route can again be revived?
Sir, like different kinds of offers, like deal packages from travel agencies can be brought up. And most
Mm-hmm.
importantly, sir, the health facilities of there are not easily available. So establishing like uh, certain infirmary or like hospital would assure that even if anything happens, then the people would be helped and are not left like.
Okay. I am next.
Yes, sir. Sunra, sir.
Begin. Topic here.
Sir, cannabis in context of Nepal. Sir, देखिरहेछ sir.
Aayam.
Sure.
Begin.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I will be presenting a presentation on the topic cannabis in context of Nepal. So, in this presentation, I will be talking about what is cannabis, the history of cannabis in Nepal, why was it banned in Nepal, should it be legalized in Nepal, and will it be legalized in Nepal? So, moving on to the first topic, what is cannabis? Cannabis is a plant used for medicinal and recreational purposes. So, it is also known as weed, and it's two types. First is hemp, and another is marijuana. So the major aspect that differentiates between these two types of plant is the THC level. So in hemp, it only consists of 3% THC level. So THC is a psychoactive ingredient among hundreds of substances present in the plant. So uh, in hemp, it only consists of 3%. So uh, hemp is used for producing textiles, papers, bags, etc. But in marijuana, it consists from 3 to 30% of THC level. So it is used for medicinal purposes and recreational purposes. So now we know what cannabis is. In the next topic, I will be talking about the history of cannabis in Nepal. So in Nepal, weed was found abundantly. There were no laws against it. People could freely use this, but weed was specially used for medicine in Nepal since the 1700s because it contained the properties that could calm down nerves, anxiety, stress. So weed was mainly given to the soldiers before going to the war to calm down their nerves, to show bravery. So as Nepal has the perfect climate and fertile land to grow weed, in the 19th century, Nepal started cultivating weed as cash crop. So during this time, Nepal produced a lot of weed and was exported all around the world. So in this time, in this during the Second World War, Nepal's weed was very famous because it was exported all around the world. So moving towards the end of 1960s, young youths started leaving their countries in search of places which were remote, exotic, that could trigger their imagination. So Kathmandu had become famous for that. The one reason Kathmandu becoming famous outside Nepal is that people could smoke weed freely, and there were no restrictions on it. So from every year, 1965 to 1973, tens and thousands of young people came to Kathmandu. So these young people are called hippies. So they visited a place named Zoche because there were small shops where they could buy weed freely without any restrictions. So around these shops, many restaurants were also opened, and in those restaurants, food items like hashish, toasted cheese, hashish milk drinks were sold. So what is hashish? Hashish is a sticky, thick, dark-colored resin which is made from the flower of female cannabis plant. So it was told that young boys would run around the field of weed naked, and they would stick these flowers in their body and later remove it by rubbing it and compress it into a solid piece to look like a solid piece. So people would buy these products excessively and without any hesitation. They were not greedy to spend their money on it. Uh, so because of them, other countries people also came to know about Nepal. So basically, they opened a door of tourism in Nepal. We can say that whether it is mountaineering or marijuana, trekking to Everest or tripping on weed, getting as high as you can had always been central to Nepal tourist experience. So till 1961, there were no laws formed, but in 1961, a law was formed by the Nepal government stating that one should have a license to farm and sell wheat. So Nepal government gave license to about 30 shops all around Nepal, and 3 shops were located in Zoche. So we could find many hippies roaming around that area. So basically, the law was formed to collect tax, and Nepal government Nepal did collect tax about 1 lakh in that time due to college tax from the weed. So we can say that hippies brought growth in the economy of Nepal. But later on, Nepal government was forced to stop weed production and selling and exporting of weed. So till now, weed is still illegal. And now in the next slide, I will be talking about why weed was banned in Nepal. So in 1973, July 16, weed was the license of weed was banned, but farmers could still cultivate it, produce it, export it illegally. But in 1976, it was completely banned by the Narcotics Drugs Control Act. So if anyone were to produce it, sell it, export it, they were punished by the Nepal government. So during the 1960s and 1970s, the hippies, the Western youths involved in counterculture movement, they traveled to Nepal in their quest for spiritual peace. Many foreigners visited Nepal, uh, especially Kathmandu, as weed was legal and there were no restrictions. But because due to the pressure from the United States, United Nations, and even the locals, Nepal government banned cannabis as it was labeled in the list of narcotics drugs. United States pressured to ban weed in Nepal because many American youths were traveling to Nepal for the main purpose getting high, smoking weed. So United States feared that it was leading the American youths to astray. So this is the main reason why weed was banned in Nepal. It was due to the pressure from the United States. So in the next slide, I will be talking about should weed be legalized in Nepal. So WHO's statement in Jan 2019, WHO has stated that cannabis contains two components, CBD and THC. So CBD is cannabidiol. So it is. They say that WHO states that it has no health risk and often used for panic disorder, anxiety disorder, for reducing pain. So in THC, it contains a psychoactive ingredient, so it can be used in anesthesia, generally used in chemotherapy as it helps people from pain relief who already. Uh, uh, and WHO has already stated that weed is not harmful and can be used effectively for medicinal purposes and wisely for recreational purposes. So, following the trend, 25 countries have already legalized weed for medicinal purposes, and some countries have also legalized it for recreational purposes too. So I think Nepal should also follow the trend, as Nepal is an agricultural country and Nepal has a huge potential for becoming a major cannabis producer due to its fertile land, favorable climate, and as we know, about 66% of people are directly engaged in farming. So I think cultivating weed as cash crop like in the 19th century will be more beneficial, as the demand for the weed for medicinal purposes in this age is very high in the current medicinal field. So in 1972, Nepal and Morocco produced 50% of world's weed. So I think Nepal still has the capacity to do it. We can also increase the weed tourism in Nepal, which will surely help in the economy of Nepal. So in Colorado, for the last 4 years, they have already earned $241 million just from the collection from tax, weed from the collection of tax from weed. So I think we can do the same. So moving on to the next slide, I will be talking about will weed be legalized in Nepal. So considering the fact that weed can be cultivated as cash crop, it may be legalized, but there will be strict rules for producing it, cultivating it, and selling and exporting it. But so there was a meeting held by the UN Commission on Narcotics Drugs in Vienna. So Nepal votes to remove cannabis from list of narcotics drugs. So in that meeting, Sher Bahadur Tamang, the PM from NCP, Nepal Communist Party, registered a cannabis cultivation act in the parliament as a private bill. So if this bill gets approved by the UN Commission, the bill can be converted into a law. Into the law. So he states that this is the cash crop that can lift Nepalese from poverty, and it is now up to us to pass it into the law. So there is a chance that weed may be legalized in the future, but surely there will be strict laws against it for the usage and its production. So this is my presentation on the topic cannabis and context of weed.
Well, you wonderfully presented all the pros, cons, what the rest of the countries have been doing. Well, in terms of Nepal, the question is, well,
Yes,
suppose
sir.
if weed gets legalized in Nepal, what
Yes.
are the control measures that the government should be taking? Because without legalizing, we can see that weed has been related, so marijuana has been related with a lot of social
Uh,
crimes, with a lot of
yeah.
criminal activities. Well, it has also been portrayed as influencing kids, influencing teenagers to go off track and all of that from a social
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
These are all the challenges that are already there, right?
Yeah.
From a business perspective, you said you already mentioned in the slide that it could be grown as a cash crop and then it could be exported. The prime quality of wheat could be exported all across the world. Well, that's a good example. But socially,
Yeah.
given that wheat is legalized in Nepal, how do you check the progress? Athava, how do you control, the wheat consumption?
So basically, the government can state a law, law stating that mainly weed should be produced for medicinal purposes, as in the medical field, the usage, the need of weed is increasing very high. So maybe producing it for medicinal purposes, mainly focus on producing it for medicinal purposes, and uh, what one should be aware about what weed does. Maybe there are effects of weed, long-term effects, but uh, so one should be aware about this. And so Bob Marley once said, "The alcohol is the destruction of the nation, and the herb is the healing of the nation." So maybe using it excessively will harm some people. But if we use it wisely for recreational purposes too, I think it won't be that
Okay,
harmful.
okay. Just a minute. If you use it wisely, how would you use wheat wisely?
I mean, like for recreational purposes, obviously many teens will be using it for recreational purposes. So
Hmm.
getting ice would be like that. So maybe if we aware them about what will be the consequences of like smoking it for a long time, smoking the long term effects of it,
Uh-huh.
we maybe and make them aware about what its consequences will be. So if we do
Okay.
this, we maybe like we can reduce
Good.
its.
Okay. Thank you. Next, Kijen
सर
Shakya.
सर
Huh?
सदीक्षाले गर्ने भनिरहेछ है सर
Huh?
सदीक्षाले गर्ने भनिरहेछ उसलाई लाइक के अरे ऊ प्रेजेन्ट गरेर गइहाल्छ अरे सर यसो काम पऱ्यो अरे उसलाई
Lo, 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 lo. Sadiskshya, sir.
एकैछिन एकैछिन है सर के भयो एकछिन म यो पछि गर्छु सरी
Huh?
यो पछि गर्छु एकजना पछि
Okay.
ओके सर म प्रेजेन्ट गर्छु सर
Us, us, us.
सर देखिरहेछ है सर
Mm-hmm.
आइरहेको स्क्रिन आइरहेछ स्क्रिन आएको छैन
Ayo.
So hello everyone, it's me Kijen Shakya, and today I will be presenting on a topic how to change tire. So what are tires? It is a ring shape, a component that surrounds a wheel trim, which helps your vehicle to transfer from one place to another and provide traction on a surface over which wheel travels. So basically they are four wheels in a vehicle, excluding spare tires. Okay, the topic that we're gonna discuss today: introduction and why it's important, the tools that we require, the things that we need to know, and some basic steps, and one of my personal experience. the introduction and why it's important. So basically, as I told about the tires, everyone knows about what are tires and how many tires are there in a car or SUV. Where SUV stands for a super utility vehicle. In every vehicle, there is a kit given, and you should know what are they and how to use. Many of the people don't know how to use the Many of the people don't know how to use the kit given in a vehicle. Today we're going to discuss about how to use and what are they. It is also why it is important. It is also a very basic skill which a driver should know, even a non-driver should know. It can be very useful because we don't know what will happen when we drive. We might face a flat tires anywhere that might and there might not excuse me, there might not be a mechanic to fix it. So we should learn how to do it. So moving out of the next, we're gonna talk about the tools that we require. The tools are the jack point, a log wrench, a fully inflated tires, and a flat wooden plank. A jack point. A jack point is a device which is used to uplift a vehicle. So as you can see in the pictures, one is manual hydraulic jack and another one is manual jack. In most of the cars, you can see the manual jack. Moving on to next, a log wrench. A log wrench is a tool which is used to loosen and tighten our nuts. Usually in every vehicle, there are a normal wrench given. So as you can see, there are two type of wrench. One is a plus wrench, and another one is a regular wrench, which is provided in every vehicle. Moving on to next, a fully inflated tires. So it is one of the important thing that you need to know while you drive. You should always check your spare tires whether it is in good condition or not. Moving on to next, a flat wooden plank, which is optional. About these tools or the extra equipment that I will be gonna talk about in a later upcoming slides. Now moving on to next the things that you need to know after you get your tire flat. First of all, find a flat surface so that you can deploy your jack. And moving on to next, applying a park brake and put into a park position so that you don't move your vehicle forward or backward, and stay safe. The staying safe. The first of all, scan your surrounding for a safety. Let me put you in a situation. That is it better to drive on flat tire to get a safe location than stop on a highway or a road? Yes, it is, but it might cause you some damages like your rim might go, but your life matters most. Hence, the slow down as you direct your car to a stretch. And another thing that you need to know: never make a turn when your tire gets flat and you're on a speed. If you make a turn, you might face a serious accident, and which might cause you a damage. And the next topic that we're gonna talk about the some basic steps where you need to know when you change the tire. First of all, use the jack point to lift the vehicle, and then use the wrench to take out the nuts. After that, take the wheel out. Then replace the flat tire with the spare tires and make sure you don't lose the nut. If you lose any one of the nuts, it might put you in a very deep trouble so that you should not misplace the nuts. After that, tight the nuts by hand until they all are snug, and they should turn easily at first. Then lower the car without applying a full weight on the tires. Then tighten the nuts as much as possible. After that, last but not least, put the old tire into a deck and take it to the mechanic. Moving on to the last topic, I would like to share one of my personal experience with you guys. So, I was going on a road trip to the Sivapuri district highway with the four members. While we were climbing uphill, our back tire got flat, and there were no mechanic or any people walking there. So we had to face obstacles. No one was there to help us. But we were stuck at the middle of a nowhere, and it was uphill, incline off-road surface, so nowhere to go. But fortunately, we had a wooden plank in our kit. The plank that I had told in the tools that we require. So, which help us the plank which help us to maintain the grip on a ground surface to deploy a jack. After an hour, we were able to fix it, and we move out for and move off from that place. So the information that I was going trying to give you was about through my personal experience is is that it is very important to learn a changing tires, and it can help you well as the important. It is also an important lifesaver skill because we don't know what will happen when we drive. We might face the flat tires anywhere, and there might not be a mechanic to fix it. So we should know learn how to use it. Thank you.
Okay. Firstly, what made you choose this topic?
It because it is a very basic important skill, sir, for drive.
Uh, the next question is, what would you suggest, or so, what would be the ground rule in purchasing a new tire? How do you see? So, what are the things that you should be looking when you purchase a new tire?
Okay, so it depends upon the tire size, and what kind of tire you need. So there are
Mm,
basically many different of tire, but most important tire that we require for Nepal are the spine grip tires and flat grip tires. The spine grip tires help you in going to off roads, and the flat grip tires which help you to go in a highway. That's it.
okay. Thank you, Kijen. Next,
So can I go? Like, can I start?
yes, yes, please.
Um, खोइ त सेयर नै हुँदैन ए भयो भयो Okay. So good morning everyone. I am Sadiskshya and I'll be talking about air traffic control. Am I audible?
Yes, carry on.
Air traffic control. So I'll be talking about air traffic control services, its history, mode of communication, phonetic alphabets, clearances, Thai International Flight 311, IFR and VFR, that are the basic flight rules, and the ground movement chart of Tribhuvan International Airport. So first things first, what is an airport? Airport can be defined as a complex of runways and buildings that is held responsible for takeoff, landing, and maintenance of an aircraft. Airport is basically called an airport because it is created by combining two words, air and port, where air is referred to the air operation, air transportation operation, and port means a junction. So airport basically is a junction from where all air related transportation services are carried out. So now let's go to air traffic control. Air traffic control can be defined as a service provided by ground-based air traffic controllers that help directing aircraft on the ground and through controlled airspace, and also provide advisory services to aircrafts in non-controlled airspace. To be more clear about this, let me compare this to the traffic controllers we see on our daily lives. Those traffic controllers are as similar to air traffic controllers, where the only difference is the traffic for them is in the land, and the traffic for the air traffic controllers is in the airborne situation. So let's move to purpose of air traffic control. The basic purpose of air traffic control worldwide is to prevent collision either between the aircrafts in an airborne situation or also in the maneuvering area. Maneuvering area is a defined land zone where all the movements of land or air zone where all the movement of aircraft takes place. It is also to organize and expedite the flow of air traffic so as to decrease the level of tension in such a hectic schedule. Also provide. Can you please mute yourself?
किजेन तिम्रो आइरहेछ हौ माइक अन छ
Kijen, mute, mute, mute.
Sorry.
Sorry. So it is also to provide information and other support for pilots. Other support may include any advisory services or related information such as wind, altitude, and air traffic. So let's move to history of airport or air traffic controlling. The first air traffic control service was sorry carried out on February 25, 1920 in Croydon Airport, London. The first aerodrome control tower, also known as airport tower, that we generally see was a wooden hut that was 15 feet high windows all on uh, with windows on all four sides. Still till date, the control tower is in the same design. It worked for providing basic traffic services such as basic traffic, weather, and location information to the pilots. Sorry. The first advanced air traffic control was then commissioned in 1922 in the United States of America after World War I. That was when the army started. किन change नभइरहेको slide? I don't know why the slide is not changing. Okay. I'll do it this way. So हुन्छ.
हजुर
Slide नै change भइरहेको छैन रहेछ के present गर्दा. I don't know
हुन्छ
why.
हुन्छ just make yourself comfortable राम्ररी गर न
Okay, so that was the history of the the first air traffic control. The advanced air traffic control was commissioned in 1922 in the United States of America after World War I. After they started using advanced technologies that was started by the American Army. The first air traffic control service in Nepal was in 1949, which is formerly known as Gautar. The first aircraft that landed on Trivandrum International Airport was Beechcraft Bonzana that was carrying an Indian ambassador to Nepal. There are also a few points stated that Simara Airport was constructed way before the Trivandrum International Airport, but due to lack of evidence and proofs, it is still considered invalid. Now let's move to mode of communication. Air traffic controllers and pilots with communicate to each other with the help of very high frequency channels where the frequency is specifically allotted between 118 to 136.75 megahertz. They use a special mic like a thing, and there are 7 antennas installed in the airplane which helps in the transmission of those radio signals. In case of radio communication failure, they also use light signals. So let's see what different lights have different meanings. Similar lights have different meanings for aircrafts in flight and aircrafts on ground. Aircrafts on ground, steady greens means clear to land for aircraft in flight, whereas it means clear to take off for aircraft on ground. Landing is basically the descending of an aircraft, and taking off is the ascending of it. Steady red means give way to other aircraft and continue circling. We know that fixed wings cannot stay in the same position and keep their engines on. They need to move in order to maintain a balance and keep themselves in the air. So this steady red means that the landing spot is yet not ready and they have to keep circling. Steady red means stop to aircraft on ground so as to stop any further procedure of whatever they're doing. Series of green flashes means return for landing to aircrafts on flight. The same aircraft they instructed to continue circling is yet now ready for landing, and that's the instruction for it. Series of green flashes means clear to taxi for aircraft on ground. Taxi is basically the process of movement of aircraft from the apron to the runway. Apron is the defined area on the airport where the aircrafts are boarded or deboarded with passengers, loaded and offloaded with cargoes, fueled and refueled. Series of red flashes means aerodrome unsafe, do not land, whereas it also means taxi clear of landing area in use. Series of white flashes means land at this aerodrome and proceed to apron and return to starting point on the aerodrome for aircraft on ground. Aerodrome is any area that is occupied by the airport. Now this was just the basic light signals. All they also have a different notation for phonetic alphabets. We generally consider A for apple, B for ball, or something like that. But we are 24 of us in the meeting, and if we ask like each 24 of us, we will most probably give different notation for each alphabet, but so as to maintain a uniformity in the notation of the alphabet throughout the world. They have given a certain notation such as A is noted for Alpha, B for Bravo, C for Charlie, D for Delta, E Echo, F Foxtrot, G Golf, H Hotel, I India, J Juliet, K Kilo, L Lima, M Mike, N November, O Oscar, Papa Quebec, Romeo, Sierra, Tango, U Uniform, V Vector, W Whiskey, X X-ray, Y Yankee, and Z Zulu. Not only the alphabets, even the numbers are pronounced in a different way. Zero is pronounced as zero itself, one as one, two is two, three as three, four as forward, five as five, six six, seven seven itself, eight eight, nine niner, 100 as 100, 10,000 as 10,000, and flight level 330 is noted as flight level 330. So that was the phonetic alphabets. Now let's go and look what an actual instruction looks like. So basically, clearances are the authorization that is given by the air traffic controllers to the pilots in order to perform any operational task. There are a list of clearances that needs to be given in order to fly or land an aircraft. These are only some of the examples. A landing clearance for a Roll Nepal aircraft would sound something like Roll Nepal 206 Kathmandu Tower, wind 220 degrees 02 knots, runway 02 clear to land. So this is an instruction that mentions the call sign of the aircraft, the wind, the runway they are supposed to land at. This is the final clearance that an aircraft receives, that a captain receives before he rolls the wheels on the runway. So an takeoff clearance would sound something like, so this is not the final takeoff clearance, this is a report ready clearance. So basically a pilot has to report ready in order to take off. Ready as in he or she has to complete all the tasks, all the operation on the ground, and then report ready, and only they can get authorized to take off. So a report ready clearance would sound something like Roll Nepal 205 Kathmandu Tower, line up runway 02, report ready, sorry. So once the pilot reaches the runway and then reports ready, an air traffic controller on the controller seat would give another clearance such as Nepal 205 clear Dharke 1 Delta, departure on airborne contact Kathmandu, approach 120.6, runway 02 clear for takeoff. So Nepal only has one runway, but there are two ends of it, so it is known as 20 and 02. 02 is the Koteshwar end of the runway, whereas 20 is the border end of the runway. So after this last takeoff clearance, only then the flight can take off and then report ready and then report to Kathmandu approach once they reach a certain altitude at the air. So this was about the air traffic control. Now let's look at a major incident that happened back then in 1992. A flight from Bangkok, Thailand was to arrive in Trivandrum International Airport, Kathmandu, Nepal on 31st July 1992. The flight was Thai Airways International Flight 311. It crashed into the side of a mountain 37 kilometers north of Kathmandu at an altitude of 11,500 feet. It is said that the pilot contacted air traffic control and it was given the clearance for instrument approach from the south of Kathmandu. After a very close distance to be covered, a pilot noticed a technical error in the flight and then asked for a diversion to Calcutta. But before the air traffic controller could give any further instruction, the call got cut off. Thinking that they were already in the instruction, they had already followed the instruction the ATC had given earlier. It cleared for a straight in Syria approach to runway 02 and told to report leaving 9,500 feet. After and then the flight got crashed, and then like afterwards, after the investigation was done, it was found out that the ATC merely mentioned the availability of runway 02, that was the Koteshwar end, and due to a number of frustrating and misleading communication, and also due to the inexperience of the air traffic controller, as it was found out that the air traffic controller was an OJT, on the job trainee, who was working for a duration of about 9 months. The captain had asked 4 times for the permission to turn left, but then after receiving no firm reply, he announced he was turning right and then climbed to a lower level. The controller had assumed that the flight the controller had assumed from the flight transmission that the aircraft had called off and was turning south, therefore clear to 11,500 feet. Just to mention that turning south was a safer altitude in case of Nepal, in case of Kathmandu. The flight then descended back to 11,500 feet, went through a 360-degree turn, and passed over airport northbound when it was supposed to pass southbound. Seconds before the impact, the ground proximity warning sign system activated and alarm rang. But then the second pilot informed to the captain, but due to the misleading information given by ATC, the captain stated that the GWPS was giving false report, and then the aircraft crashed into a steep rock in Langtang National Park at an altitude of 11,500 feet, killing all 113 people, among which 23 were Nepali, and there were other 14 crews too in the aircraft. So these two are the pictures of the crashed aircraft. Moving to basic flight rules, there are two basic flight rules, IFR and VFR, which is instrument flight rules and visual flight rules. So as simple as it sounds by its name, instrument flight rules are the flights that are operated with the help of instrument and visual. And for visual flight rules, the main basic foundation of flight is the visibility. So let's get more brief into it. For in order to fly an instrument flight rule, there are two um, conditions. At least the altitude should at least be 2,000 feet above the highest obstacle in mountainous region, and at least 1,000 feet above the highest obstacle elsewhere. So for example, let's take an example of Kathmandu and Dharara, supposing its height to be somewhere around 1,500 feet. So in order to fly in Kathmandu, as it is not a mountainous area, the pilot has to maintain a safer distance of 1,000 feet, meaning it has to maintain an altitude of 1,000 feet safer distance plus 1,500 extra plus 1,500 feet of the Dharara. So meaning the pilot can only fly the aircraft above the altitude of 2,500, and if it was a mountainous area, the pilot should fly it above 3,500 feet. So that is in case of not establishment, and in case of the altitude that is fixed by the state, the pilot has to work like according to it. For visual flight rules, as I said, visual flight rules are to be operated with the visualization of the pilot. So for that, the ceiling needs to be less than 1,500 feet. Ceiling in this phraseology is referred as the lowest height of the cloud. So like the lowest cloud should not have less than 1,500 feet distance from the ground level, and also the ground visibility should not be less than 5 kilometers, meaning that the pilot should be able to differentiate at a distance of 5 kilometers with his or her naked eyes. There is also a condition for special VFRs. So for special VFR, there needs to be a visibility of 1,000 meter for rotor wings and 2,500 meter for fixed wings. Rotor wings are basically choppers and helicopters, whereas fixed wings are the aircrafts. So this is the ground movement chart of 31 International Airport. This thing here is the control tower, and this broad line is the runway. 02, this is the Koteshwar end, and 20, this is the Bodha end of the aircraft runway. So blue skies and happy landings. Thank you. Any questions?
Uh, that was a wonderfully made presentation. The first question is, what made you choose this topic? Why
So
did you choose this topic as the first place?
I thought this would be a unique topic to present on first, and the second, I could gather all this information from my mom. She's an air traffic controller, so
Okay,
all this
so
information.
was it an area of interest for you, or just because your mom is an ATC and you can easily get in data, so you went on
It
with
is an
the
area
topic?
of interest as well, and also because of the second reason, like it is both.
Okay. Now the main question. Uh, Kathmandu's airport has been termed as one of the most challenging international airports because of the surrounding mountains, and then surrounding areas. It's in the middle of the valley, and then there are steep mountains just close by, and then in order to maintain the altitude for landing the aircraft, it makes it even more difficult. So. it obviously would go for a VFR. I believe Kathmandu landing at Kathmandu International Airport would be a VFR procedure. What makes a VFR procedure so challenging?
Okay, so for Kathmandu is like, as you said, Kathmandu is a like a valley that is covered with mountains all around, but it is still not that challenging as the distance between the mountain and the runway is like sufficient for an instrument flight as well. But then for VFR flights to be difficult in Kathmandu, it is maybe because of the weathers. The weather in the mountainous, the flight has to come to the mountainous area, and the weather there is kind of unpredictable, and also the wind flowing in that area is also kind of like unpredictable, so it is that thing that makes it difficult. And except of that, it is also pollution can also be one of the cause, as the environment near the runway is also very air polluted, so like the visibility may be a little decreased, which can like affect the safe landing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
रिजनी त्यसपछि कुन क्लास छ तिमीहरूको?
अकाउन्ट्स छ सर।
कति 10:30 होइन?
हजुर सर।
10:25 भइसक्यो। सो विल कल इट अ वाइन्ड अप आजलाई होइन। रिमेनिङ स्टुडेन्ट्स को छ अनि खुसबुहरू अगाडिको खुसबुको लटमा अहिलेसम्म जसले मिस गरेको छ, गेट रेडी विथ द प्रेजेन्टेसन्स। नेक्स्ट क्लासमा वी विल गो फर अ कम्प्लिसन है, टोटल कम्प्लिसनको लागि जान्छौँ। सन्डेबाट सुरु हुन्छ, सन्डे, मन्डे, ट्युजडे, वेडनेसडे, 4 दिन छ वी हेभ। सो 4 दिनभित्रमा वी विल ट्राई एन्ड कम्प्लिट अल अफ दिस। अनि त्यसपछि वेडनेसडेको क्लाससम्ममा प्रेजेन्टेसन सकिसकेपछि इफ यु गाइज हेभ एनी क्वेसन्स रिलेटेड टु एनी 9 युनिट्स, अगाडिको 8-9वटा जतिवटा युनिट छ, युनानिमसली डिसाइड गर, तिमीहरू एक आपसमा सल्लाह गर, छलफल गर। कुनै नबुझेको टपिक छ, कुनै गाह्रो लागेको टपिक छ, कुनै अलि एक्सप्लेन गरिदिनु पर्ने टपिक छ भने let me know, and then I would look forward to explaining all of that. So I'll call it a day as a life. Nice weekend, have a happy weekend सबैजना, stay safe. Sunday चाहिँ I will get back, we will get back with the presentations. Thank you so much.